Welcome back to episode 38 of Sitting Courtside. Of course, it's your boy Jerry D here.
And it's your boy Dante back for another locked and loaded full episode talking about the NBA playoffs, some updates on the series that we have. We're down to two now, Eastern Conference Finals and the Western Conference Finals,
Makes
as
it
well
easier
as
to
some.
get through.
Absolutely. Yeah, we got just a few teams left in the playoffs, so we're going to jump into that. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about some all defensive teams that got announced, and we're going to talk about a few other things. But before we do any of that, please make sure to like and subscribe if you are here watching on YouTube. Put in the comments what you think of this episode, your thoughts, opinions of what we get into. If you are an audio-only listener, please make sure to give us a 5-star review, all that good stuff. We appreciate it. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Check out our shorts here on YouTube as well. And Jerry, one last thing I have to ask you before we get into this.
Come on.
How are you?
Good, man. Good. You know, it's playoff basketball in the thick of things, the final four, if you will, of our NBA postseason. So things are starting to get a little spicy now. You know, not to quote Russell Wilson here, but it's definitely getting very spicy. Two good series going on. You can't really ask for anything better. How are you, my boy?
I'm doing good, Jerry. It's up here in Boston. We're starting to hit that 80, 90-degree weather. Went golfing yesterday for the first time in God knows how long. Could have been better, but let me tell you what, could have been a lot worse too. So feeling good, a little bit sore. The backswing needs some working on, but you know we're gonna get to that. We're gonna work on that.
Hey, I got no swing, so you're doing a lot better than me. I gotta pick up golf at some point. So
hey man, it's one of those things where it's like I am not gonna sit here and ever tell you that I'm a good golfer, but I'm not terrible. If I just need to play consistently. Like if I'm playing like a few times a week, whatever, like I can be okay. But if I go like X amount of time without golfing or practicing, I shouldn't even be anywhere near a club.
Hey, I got you. I'm not judging you. I'm just saying I wish you were more of a natural. I'm kidding. But you know.
Hey, I work with the God-given abilities that God gave me, all right? Whatever he gave me, I'm working with it right now.
I hear you, Bryson DeChambeau. I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at you.
All right.
Enough about
Anyways,
the golf
this is the basketball podcast, not the golf channel.
Yes, you know, so to kind of move towards something a lot more fast-paced and electric, and hey, we're going to start with something that's still very near and dear to your heart, and your Boston Celtics taking Game 1 at home, beating the Indiana Pacers. It was one hell of a barn burner, one game that they really almost fumbled, especially towards the last few minutes of regulation, but instead, we can call it what the Pacers did, a choke job. So,
yeah.
Obviously, Jaylen Brown hits that big-time three to tie it up at 117 all, and then you go into OT and pretty much just smash them. So, you know, let's keep it generic here, man. Just give me your thoughts about what you saw from your Boston Celtics.
They started the game off hot. They were up 12-0, and in my head I'm thinking, wow, they're just going to blow them out. But the Celtics do this thing where I don't want to say play down to their competition because I'm not trying to make it sound like Indiana isn't a good basketball team. Listen, they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals now. We're in the conference finals. Like they worked their way here. Like you can't doubt them. You can't not respect them. You know, they're here. You got to play like it's any other team in front of you. But the Celtics do, you know, the Celtics are better than the Pacers on paper, you know, on every regular season, everything. They played each other, I think, 5 times this year in the regular season between the in-season tournament and then just the regular season game. So they're very familiar with each other. So, you know how they play, you know their style, this and that. It seemed like the Celtics were, you know, they got it down. They know their play style and they were going to be able to just, you know, take it easy this game as far as like, you know, blowing them out and then just like, you know, cruising the rest of the game. But instead, they let the Pacers stay in it. It was tied up at halftime. The Celtics were down for, I think, most of the fourth quarter. It was tied or they were down for most of the fourth. And I'm watching it with my girlfriend, and she's never like really watched or like been around me watching basketball games because we just moved in together. So now she's seeing me watching playoff Celtic basketball, and I am off my rocker, man. I was so like just frustrated the way they were playing the defense. Like it was just they just weren't playing like the Boston Celtics. And then, like you said, before I get to that, I kept saying, I was like, I do think the Celtics are going to win this game. The whole time I was like, I think they're going to win. They're just making it harder on themselves. They're just making this so difficult. They get the ball back with 8 seconds left, and I go, this is it. I was like, I don't know who's going to do it, but something's got to happen. I was like, not that they shouldn't lose the game. They deserve to lose, but I was like, they can't lose this game. They can't fumble game one. Jaylen Brown hits that three in the corner. Siakam was scratching his ass, and every single picture you see, wrist on his ass, and it's like, it was one of the craziest shots. I mean, that's going to be in every Jaylen Brown highlight tape for the rest of his career. And then, we go into overtime. Tatum takes over. Both Jaylen and Tatum had their ups and downs this game. They both had at some point, costly turnovers. Tatum had a very bad turnover, I believe, at the end of regulation, but he made up for it in the overtime, hitting a big three to kind of ice the game. But yeah, dude, I mean, I was confident going into game one. Coming out of game one, I mean, I hope it was a wake-up call for this team to be like, hey, you're better than them, but that doesn't mean they can't beat you. And they almost beat you on your own court, which they've had kind of a difficult time. The 2 losses they've had this postseason were at home. So it's like, they're not really, although they're winning other games, they're not protecting as much as they could be. So it's like losing game one at home would have been it would have been a tough blow. Tatum said, he goes, thank God we won because I would have been sick to my stomach, which I would have too. But yeah, I mean, I'm confident still the rest of the series. I think the Pacers will get one game, whether it's in Boston or in Indiana, but I do think this is a series that the Celtics should finish in 5 games or so.
Okay. Yeah, I think that prediction should stay true. But at the same time, you never really know. The Celtics, like you mentioned, them having their struggles at home, and their 2 losses came in this postseason at home, like you just mentioned. But it was also
in game 2.
twos. Yeah,
exactly. Mm-hmm.
So the fact that Indiana really coughed this big of an opportunity to actually seize that split that they wanted, so they can go back to Indiana, and guess what? Indiana hasn't lost at home this postseason.
No,
they haven't lost a home game. I heard them say on the NBA Countdown since March 18th.
That's impressive. That's very impressive. Yeah.
Taking game one would have gave them all the confidence in the world, even if you blew them out in game 2, to go back to Indiana and see what they
Indiana's got home court at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
They do, yeah.
So it's
and I said too, like there should be a wake up call for the Celtics. That this losing could also light a fire for the Pacers, being like, we were that fucking close to beating them, and we just choked it away in the last 8 seconds. Rick Carlisle was like, I should have called a timeout. He goes, I should have advanced the ball. He was admitting to mistakes.
There's a lot of things that Rick Carlisle did wrong. Starting with all those timeouts, first of all, to really slow his team down, because you talked about Tatum having a costly turnover in the last 30 or so seconds. Tyrese Halliburton and Aaron Nesmith had like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Which is why Jaylen Brown was even given the opportunity to hit such a big-time shot with 100%. Siakam's hand in his ass crack, was because of those turnovers that led to that.
The Pacers should have had free throws after being up 3 that would have put them up 4-5, and they would have won the game. But
it's that simple.
Turnovers.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
But it's also it's that factor where even T.J. McConnell probably should have been the one to take out the ball, like even Tyrese Halliburton, but instead it was Andrew Nembhard, who not a bad player at all. He had a great game.
He's had his game. Yeah, 100%.
He had a good game. But turning the ball over in that costly, when he was trying to get it to Pascal Siakam, and it's the playoffs, so the jersey tugs and all that the little small stuff, they're not going to call that. So Jaylen Brown did tug on Pascal a little bit. Yes, Pacers fans, I'll give you your due diligence now. But it's the playoffs. They don't care about that.
Those little tic-tacky things they're not going to call.
So, and then he throws the ball out of bounds, and that sets up the grand stage for everything else to kind of take place the way it took place. But in overtime, my biggest beef with Rick Carlisle and the Pacers is, why is Nembhard the primary defender on Jayson Tatum?
Yeah, Jayson Tatum. Every single time he was guarding Tatum, like, Tatum, just look who's on you right now.
This is lunch.
And just go. Just go. It's so easy. It's so easy.
Look, like Shannon Sharp said, man, I'm thinking collard greens, mac and cheese, yams. I'm thinking everything because this is light work.
Yeah,
There's no
breakfast,
reason
lunch,
why
and
a
dinner for
6'2"
Tatum.
dude should be
Hmm.
guarding somebody that's 6'8" in
Yeah,
the
no.
pressure situations.
The
This is
defensive matchups were off. Were definitely
exactly
off. Yeah.
because he's putting this a guard pick and roll because I believe Tyrese Halliburton was on Jaylen Brown and then it was Andrew Nimhard that was on Tatum. They just pick on Nimhard. Let's put Nimhard in pick and roll situations. Oh, Tatum gets an and one. Oh, Tatum hits a big time three. Oh, he hits a mid range jumper. And plus, there was a lot of moments where Jayson Tatum did almost choke that game. I'm giving his credit now. But after getting that offensive rebound and taking an ugly turnaround in the middle of the lane with all
Oh,
these bodies
oh
in front
my
of you,
God. I was screaming at my
bro,
TV, dude. I was
terrible
screaming
shot
at my
selection.
TV so bad. So bad. And there was so much time. Like, you didn't have to fucking force that up, but they did.
Yeah, but
Yeah, dude.
if I'm Indiana, take this game for what it was and just know that you did win it up until the last minute of the fourth quarter when you started to melt down. Going into
Mhm.
game two, they should come back with a vengeance and have a whole lot of confidence to steal that game and continue the trend of the Celtics losing every game two this postseason.
Yeah, and the Celtics need to expect a different Indiana team coming into game two because that's a terrible loss. Like the Pacers should have won that game. The Celtics didn't deserve it. They were given a God-given second chance with that Jaylen Brown three, and they just took advantage
Yep.
of it. But yeah, man, they did make their mistakes, but at the end of the day, Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown stepped up big time this game. Tatum
Drew
had
Holiday.
36, 12. Drew Holiday, 28 points, by far his best game of the postseason. Could have been the best game in
As a
the
Celtic.
Celtics as a Celtic,
Yes.
100%. So that's kind of the Drew Holiday that we've been waiting for. Because, I'm sure you've seen this too. Like when the Celtics traded for Drew, it's like, you know, playoff Drew isn't as good as regular season Drew. He doesn't have those. There are some nights where he's not there offensively, whatever. In this case, for the Celtics, not even that. Like he helps in many ways. Especially on the defensive side of things. I think he's one of the. He still is one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA of our lifetime, this generation. But again, he's a fourth, fifth option on the Celtics team. You don't need him
Yeah.
to score 28 points every
That's
single
not why
game.
he was brought here. Like his role
Absolutely
for
not.
Joe Mazzulla made him the perfect 3-and-D specimen instead of being a third option or a second option like how he was pretty much his whole entire career.
Right.
It's a
And it's
different
nice to
breed.
see this. Like when you need a big time performance like this from him, you can get it, right? But it's like it just upsets me when people are like, oh, why haven't we seen this like all postseason? The Celtics are 9-2 this postseason. They really haven't needed him to do this. It's nice when it happens. I also want to say, Al Horford, man, nothing but respect for that guy. 3 for 12 from three, brother. Come on, let's stop. We don't need to be shooting 12 threes a game. He had an amazing closeout game last series. He's had a fine postseason. There are some games I give or take, but man, Al Horford, you're a great guy and everything like that. But I can't even tell you how many times I said, put in fucking Luke Cornett for God's sakes or something like that, because Al Horford just wasn't doing it for us last night.
Hey,
we ended up offensively. No, defensively, he obviously always holds his own and stuff like that. He had 3 blocks, but just someone needs to tell him that he doesn't have to just shoot threes. He shot 15 shots last night and 12 of them were threes. If you're missing 9 threes, buddy, stop shooting them. Just stop shooting them. That was my biggest gripe from last night. But
before we move forward into obviously the other series that we have going on, just give me a key point or two for each team. What are the key points for the Celtics to hit to make sure they don't run into a situation like that again? And for also the Pacers, who obviously, Reggie Miller this game here, like, what do these teams got to do to actually get over this hump to take game 2?
Celtics need a lock in defensively. I think that's been their biggest, just in the postseason itself. I just think that it's one of those things where they had their defensive identity in the regular season, and it's kind of hasn't. Not that they've been terrible on defense, but it's like they could be locked in more. I think they've definitely taken a step back when it comes to the defensive side of things. Grant, like some players are still stepping up, doing their things. Derek White had a few good, great defensive plays last night. Just mentioned Al Horford had the 3 blocks. But I do think the Celtics definitely need to sharpen up their defense a little bit. Indiana is a high scoring team. I think the 2 highest like offensive rated teams in NBA history were the Celtics and Pacers from this past year. The Pacers know how to score. They can score on everyone. The Celtics just can't allow them to score 128 points, which I don't know. I can see if I can pull up right now really quick. Might be the most points that they've allowed in this postseason. Let's see, 128. Yeah, the most points that they have allowed in this postseason. So it's like,
It was also an extra period too, though.
there's an extra period, that's true, but I don't think Indiana really had a hot overtime. Even if you took away, like let's say you shave off 10 points, it still is the most, or like right up there at the most points they've given up. That you won, you scored 133 points last night. That's great, but you can't count on scoring 133 to get the job done. Definitely need to sharpen up the defense, I believe. And then for the Celtics, for the Pacers, I just think it's a matter of just being able to close out. I think the coaching needs to be a little bit sharper. The defensive matchups need to be better. And I think they just need to, play their way. Again, one of the best offensive teams that we've ever seen. Just need to stick to that identity. And I just talked about the Celtics sharpening up on defense, but they need to find ways of going around it. And they just need to keep scoring and scoring on the Celtics and hope that the Celtics are having a bad shooting night or something and they can't keep up with the score.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head for him, man. The Pacers' identity has to be getting out in transition and catch defensive off guards, so they aren't running out of traditional half court sets. Right? There's not a lot of I guess let's call it prototypical things from what we see for most offenses in the NBA today, especially in the playoffs, to where things do slow down most of the time. And we have to be able to operate out of the half court. And we could throw it down low to a Pascal or even an Obi Toppin who's caught fire in a few postseason games.
He had a good first quarter. I think he had like 11 points in the first quarter last night or something.
So it's just a matter of, like you just said, like I think you hit it on the head, just speed up. Let's keep running, because the Celtics played their style of basketball last night. Right. They fit right into what the Pacers like to do. And that's exactly why the Pacers ended up taking a lead at some point in the third quarter. Tyrese hit like 5 or 6 threes or whatever, because the Pacers just, no pun intended, the Pacers exactly how the Pacers want it. I mean, right. it was crazy. Like I said, I think you throw out the last minute or two of what we saw in that fourth quarter if you're the Pacers, but everything else is down to a T. This team is human. If I'm Rick Carlisle, that's what I go into the locker room preaching. Like, we can beat these guys. You saw it for the first 45 minutes.
You had the game 47 minutes, so that you won the 47 minutes of the game. The first 47 minutes, It was that last minute that you lost, and that ultimately led to them losing in overtime and everything. So,
and then another key point that I also agree with that you said: switch up the matchups. Nembhard's been good, but hey, there's some guys that in the postseason, depending on the different series, you can't play them as much. Right. Maybe Nembhard's one of those guys that you don't have him on the court at the same time as McConnell and Tyrese. You can't play small in this series how you did in the past one against the Knicks. They're too big.
Yeah.
Jayson Tatum is 6'8". Jaylen Brown is all of 6'6". No, you can't do this. As for the Celtics,
they don't have the exact size to match up with the Celtics in that case at all. No.
And as for Boston, it is just as simple as slowing the game down. You guys were the one of the best teams. I don't know who has the 1 and 2 spots, but
I think Celtics may have been number 1, but it was so close that it's really just a.
Well, they were the number 1 offensive team in NBA history in terms of offensive rating.
Yep.
Do what works. You guys don't play fast naturally. You can, and it definitely worked out for you last night. But there was obviously a lot of blunders, a lot of bad turnovers, a lot of boneheaded plays, and poor shot selections that led to you guys being in that situation where you had to hit a game-tying 3 in order to extend life to take a game at home at that. So stick to what works. And also continue to double down on those little post cuts, these little backdoor cuts that I've seen Pascal get like 8 of them. He had 20 points, and a lot of them were just easy layups.
Pascal, Miles Turner had 20-something last night, too. They had a tough time with the bigs. Yeah, I think the Celtics need to play their game. They just need to control the flow, sharpen up. And the Pacers, like you said, need to be reminded that the Celtics are human. They won the first 47 minutes last night. They just need to close it out, and it can make for an interesting series if they
Hey,
played like they did last night.
fuck running in place. That's like my mindset if I'm the Pacers. Like we're just gonna run all over the court. I don't care what the
Yeah,
postseason stigma has been all these years. We can still play fast and still be successful. That's what got them to the Eastern Conference Finals.
that's right, 100%.
Moving on here to a series that hasn't started yet, but will take place tonight on May 22nd of the time of this recording, later at 8 o'clock, I believe. I'm not quite sure, but
Yeah,
either way. The
right
game
around then.
between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Dallas Mavericks will take place in Minnesota. And like Anthony Edwards said, he's going to bring all our asses to watch Minnesota
Bring your ass.
to watch
So
Minnesota
funny.
play the Dallas Mavericks. I think between the two series, this is definitely the more competitive one because of the marquee names that are being thrown into this, right? Anthony Edwards, Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic, Karl Anthony Towns. Hell, Rudy Gobert, you want to throw him in there too. So
Sure,
it's
sure.
it's going to be a fun series. Just give me some keys for them early. We can get that out the way now. And then after that, we can talk the rest of it.
Ah, man. I mean, the Mavericks, I really do think this series rides on Luka Doncic. I hate to say it. I think the Timberwolves are just a much more complete team,
Mm.
whereas the Mavericks, like, they're led by Luka and Kyrie, and then there's a drop off. Then it's like, all right, like, where are we going to get our offense from? Who's going to help out? Derek Lively has been fantastic this postseason. They have gotten help from other places, but I really do think it comes down to Luka, and it'll come down to Kyrie too. Like, I'm not saying like Kyrie doesn't need to do anything, but I really do think this is the series where we need Luka Magic 6-7 games, because I think this is going to be a 6-7 game series. The Timberwolves are hot, man. I mean, I'd say like what do the Timberwolves need to do? They just need to keep playing like they have. I mean, they were 6-0 to start the postseason, lost 3 straight to the defending champs, and then won 2 straight to take the series in 7 in Denver. So it's like, I just think they need to keep playing as a team, as a collective unit. If Anthony Edwards isn't having a great game on offense, find ways to impact the game on the other side of the ball. Or if you're just having a tough time scoring, get your teammates involved. I love Anthony Edwards' maturity and how he handles, how he can be humble enough to admit like he didn't play well, but he can lift his teammates up and still make them better. And also, so like in that game 7, he really didn't have a good score or shooting night.
24.
But once the fourth quarter came around, that's when he picked it up and everything like that when it mattered.
Yeah.
So I honestly just think the Timberwolves need to keep playing the way that they have to get to this point because it's been working. And yeah, I really, back to the Mavs, I think it really just relies on Luka. That's what I really think.
I mean, yeah, I mean, pinning it on the stars is never going to be wrong, in my opinion, for what the
Mm-hmm.
key point is going to be for each team to move on. So, I mean, hell, you're right. Anthony Edwards, like you mentioned, did have a terrible game. He shot 6 for 24 in a game
Yeah.
7 on the road, and they still ended
It,
up winning by double digits.
you look at that box score without knowing the end score of the game, I would think, oh, the Nuggets won. The
Yeah.
best player didn't have a good game, but
Yeah.
they won by 8. They won by 8.
Hey, I mean,
So
it's going to be a very interesting series. I think for me, yeah, it does ride on the stars, obviously, but the Timberwolves have these weird offensive spurts where they don't score. And
right,
like I think at the top of the postseason when we got into it, round 1 against the Suns, we talked about how revitalized the offense looked against, weaker Suns defensive team. Obviously, they're not the best defensive unit, but they went from 17th in the regular season to being like the best offense in the postseason,
yep,
averaging 120 a game. But we saw what came alive in round 2 against the defending champs, who know a thing or two about exploiting mistakes and weaknesses and stuff. They showed us that, hey, this team's really not all that great offensively. They're
mm-hmm.
big, they're long, they're great defensively, but on the other side of the ball, it really is stop Anthony Edwards and hope everybody else has a rough shooting night because there isn't anybody else in the starting lineup, at least, or really on the team in general, that could really go out there and go get a bucket for themselves outside of Anthony Edwards and Karl Towns.
Right.
Everybody else is a little limited offensively. Now, if you get 20 from Jaden McDaniels, awesome. That's
God
what you
bless.
want to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
But that's not something I know I can count
You
on from
can't
the.
expect that every game.
Exactly. So
No.
that's my cause to pause if I'm in Minnesota. Can we find enough offense? Can we generate enough points, especially in crunch time, where we can keep up with them? Let's say the defense is failing, Dallas is hitting everything, and guess what? With two of the better guards in the NBA, Luka and Kyrie, that's a possibility that could actually happen. So
Right.
if it becomes a tick for tat competition, I don't like our odds. We have to definitely hang our hat on the defensive end of the floor, but it does become a scoring match at some point. So I'm a little nervous for Minnesota because I don't know if we can afford to go 3 or 4 or 5 minutes without putting the ball in the hoop or only scoring 6 points in a 4 or 5 minute span. It's going to be a recipe for disaster. Now from Dallas,
Hmm.
they've been a great offensive team all season long. The defense took into the postseason to step up, which is usually what kind of happens in the playoffs anyway. But I'm a little nervous with the size. Like you mentioned, Luka being the key. I believe statistically speaking, Jaden McDaniels has been the best defensive player on him, like in the NBA in the last 2-3 seasons.
Damn.
It just wasn't really talked about. But I
Hmm.
did see the stat this morning pop up. Like statistically, it's like I believe it's Jaden McDaniels at the top, and Lou Dort was somewhere in the top five who was just
Yeah,
out of Denver.
that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a gauntlet that he's having to go through, except no disrespect to Lou Dort. You're 6'4", homie.
Yeah.
Jaden McDaniels
Jaden
is
McDaniels is a
6'8".
lot bigger. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a big
The,
dude.
the the Timberwolves got the bodies to throw on Luka and
They do.
Kyrie
They
and
do.
everyone else. Like if the Minnesota defense could lock down Luka and Kyrie, I'm sorry, Dallas, but it's going to be a quick trip to the conference finals for you guys. This could like Dallas has stepped up on defense, but I do think like that's going to be a factor of like you're talking about the Timberwolves having spurts of like not being able to score.
Hmm.
This is a team where they have stepped it up, but they're not the best defensive team. So it's like, can they take advantage of that? Is this going to turn into a shootout? Like the Timberwolves are by far the better defensive team. So it's like I think the defensive side of things on both side for both teams is going to be
Yeah.
such an X factor, such
And
an X
it
factor.
definitely should be too, because now that I think about it, in the OKC series, it was a situation where Dallas was the bigger team. They got Daniel Gafford, they had Derek Lively, right? There
Yep.
wasn't there wasn't really too much that we knew they were going to win the rebounding battle most nights. Now you're playing Minnesota, where Rudy in the Denver series had to step away from the basket a lot because hey, Nikola Jokic hit the three, Aaron Gordon
Right.
hit the three. The
You don't
floor,
got to do that now.
nope.
Derek Lively ain't pulling up from three or nothing like that. He's not playing outside the paint.
I get the feeling that Dallas is going to have to probably try to play small by putting PJ at the five, but that would
Mm,
be a recipe for disaster because hey, who you guarding, Rudy or Cat? It's gonna be
right.
a little tough on Dallas' series. So definitely a lot of cause to pause for good reason for both teams. But
Right. This is Dallas's second Western Conference Finals visit in the last 3 years, so they have a tad bit more experience than the Timberwolves, who we have written down here. It is their first conference finals in 20 years. So Mavs have a little bit more experience than the Timberwolves. Obviously Kyrie being an NBA champion and stuff. He knows what it takes to get to that next point to get to the finals. So I think that's something that we might see too, a little bit more experience kind of taking over and kind of getting the better of the Timberwolves perhaps. But yeah, dude, this series is going to be awesome. I mean, all the Western Conference matchups in the postseason have been great, super competitive, and I don't think this won't be any different. I think this is going to be a barn burner. I do think this is just going to be a 6-7 game series. Could go down to the wire each game, and we just got to see who the better team is.
yeah, it's interesting to say too. You said Kyrie, like the Dallas Mavericks being here for the second time in 3 years. Kyrie was in
Mm-hmm.
the conference finals back in 2017, the last time. Michael Conley, who doesn't get enough love, was in the Western Conference Finals in 2013, and that was
Wow,
11 years ago. So it's
a
like,
long
wow,
time ago.
it's a big gap between the last time he was actually been able to play in this game. Another veteran leader, obviously. So yeah, it's gonna be one of those. I feel like slow, like grinded out games. Like we're just wringing out a towel because the scores are gonna be like 90 something to 95. Like
Yeah,
look what Minnesota did to Denver. All the 4 games that Minnesota won, Denver never scored over 90 points or whatever it was. It
yeah,
was something crazy. So
yeah. The defense, man, that's gonna can the Dallas Mavericks overcome the Minnesota defense? we'll see. We'll see what Luka Magic will be getting this postseason. I will say too, I love to see that the four remaining teams left are just filled with like young, like Luka Doncic, Anthony Edwards, Jayson Tatum, Tyrese Halliburton. Just we're in a new era. We're in a new era. We're gonna see a first time champ, no matter who wins it, no matter what team wins it. And it's super refreshing. Very, very, very cool to see that this young crop of players leading their teams and making as far as they have, and one of them is going to end up with the championship. So it's really cool to see.
Everybody's 26 years old or younger that's leading their team. So
makes me sick to my stomach.
Yeah, man, we're getting old, man. No LeBron and KD out in the first round. Kawhi out in the first round.
Steph didn't even make the first.
Didn't even make the cut.
Didn't even make it. Yeah, dude, it's crazy. But hey, you love to see it at the end of the day. Fresh faces, competition, man. We haven't had a back-to-back NBA champion since the Warriors back in 2017, 2018. So it's like, it's cool. Every single year we're getting a new team. So it's very, very cool to see. Best of luck. May the better 26-year-old and younger win.
Absolutely. Hey, parity is good in sports. We see it every year in the NFL. We don't see a lot of repeat champs. I know Kansas City, is an anomaly in the Patriots.
But yeah, take out the Houston Astros in baseball, and same thing. Doesn't fuck them. Fuck them cheaters.
You know what? On to the next topic. I'm done. I don't want to talk about this anymore.
We don't got to get into this.
Yeah. Anyway, before we close out the show here, we did get our all-defensive team guys here. Got them listed out. Rudy Gobert, Victor Wembanyama, Bam Adebayo, Anthony Davis, and Herb Jones. I love to see.
Shout out Herb Jones.
Second team, Alex Caruso. Your boys, Drew Holiday and Derek White, made the cut. Jaden McDaniels, who we talked in depth about, and Jalen Suggs. So, obviously, first time things have been positionless here, where we get to see literally the best of the best being put into this spot.
Forgot about that. So when I saw this, I was like, what the fuck is this first team? I'm like, what is this going on here? Yeah, I'm okay. I'm not going to sit here and complain about, it shouldn't be positionless, because I feel like that's something that we've been kind of arguing for years, especially with the all NBA teams and stuff like that. Because it's like the best players deserve to be, make the first team, whatever. It is just kind of weird seeing it the way it is. Like I said, I completely forgot. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's weird. Like, I was like,
traditional mindset, like
100%, like 2 guards, forwards, center type of thing, 2 guards, 3 forwards nowadays. But yeah, man, I mean, at the end of the day, these 10 guys deserve to make it. I will say, I am shocked that Lou Dort didn't make it. I'm kind of surprised Drew Holiday made it. Drew Holiday is still a fantastic defender. I think he is one of the better perimeter defenders still in the NBA today. But man, I really thought Lou Dort was going to get some love, man. I know it's a regular season thing, but like we saw what he was doing to some of the best players in the postseason.
So let me stop you there. Just you can continue your point afterwards. Lou Dort was actually like 6 votes away.
He was Holiday. Yeah. It was very close. It was very, very close. So like that would have been. Hey, listen, I'm not going to complain. Drew Holiday and Derek White, both Celtics guards, making it. That's sick. I'm cool with that. But it does suck when you're someone like Lou Dort just missing the cut by 6 votes. But yeah, I mean, I think all these guys are deserving. Shout out Victor Wembanyama, man. Rookie of the year, second place defensive player of the year, all defensive first team, all rookie first team. The dude did everything his rookie year. That's crazy.
That's exactly what I was going to spotlight here. He's the first rookie ever to make it onto an all-defensive first team. There's been guys making it on all-defensive second team, but first rookie to make an all-defensive first team.
Crazy.
So just an amazing rookie season from him, right? Like 3-pointers, the most made threes by a rookie center or whatever it is with 200-plus. Like, stop. Just stop.
Yeah.
Like
this guy is he is going to be on a lot of more all defensive and then future all NBA teams in the next coming years. So, but yeah, no, I don't. What do you think? What do you think of these the 10 players that were selected?
Oh, no, I think it's a perfect list, man. I think when you look at everybody that's on that list, me personally, I think Anthony Davis should have been a finalist for the DPOY award, and hell, probably should have even won it. I would have been fine with Wemby winning it, but hey, things pan out, they pan out. But I don't think I can make an argument for the first team. I'm glad to see Herb Jones get some love here because he's taken a
Yeah, me
lot of
too.
lickings over the last few years, and he's been a good defensive player. So I'm glad he got his due diligence on here
Getting
playing with
that
the Celtics.
recognition.
Yeah,
Yep.
like that always helps you. Incentive based too with your contract. You make this team, you get a few extra $1 million. So love to see him there. The second team is interesting though. Like Jalen Suggs getting the love, like some of these smaller market players like Jaden McDaniels, like Jalen Suggs, getting that extra love. And also, obviously, their teams made the postseason. So it kind of does my heart some good to like see them get the love too. Because, like, hey, man, this guy's a real versatile defender. I'd love to see it happen. And hey, look,
Right.
guess what? They got their love this year. So
And the Magic had a great year. And it's nice to see that they got recognized
exactly.
somewhat for it. It's like the first team was like, all right, the let's put all the big men here, and then the second team, let's get all the guards and Jaden McDaniels, which is fine. It's just funny to see how it worked out like that.
I think that can kind of be like my fear moving forward because naturally I think the bigs are usually going to have better defensive
The
numbers.
bigs are
Right?
going to have better defensive numbers.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's going to be hard the way that it's positionless now for a guard to creep his way into the. It can happen,
First team.
but like it'll be hard to creep into the first team 100%.
I guess that could be my only knock if I had to really make one. But at the same time, hey, if you're really that good of a defensive player at the guard position, you should get your love. So
yeah,
I'm cool. I'm cool with the positionless though. It's something that I think needs to happen anyway. Because hey, guess what? The game is positionless.
It is. It very much so is. Yeah, no, I agree with it. Congrats to those guys, and we'll see who makes the All NBA teams tonight.
Yeah. That's all we got, man. You got anything left to say here?
Trying to think. The media needs to take a back seat, needs to chill out with the Celtics, this Celtics talk, man. Just shitting on the Celtics. We talked about it before. I didn't really get a chance to talk about it when we got to the Celtics-Indiana game. But, man, you said it. It comes with the territory of being the best team. But, my God, the media just hates the Celtics, man. It's like they win a close game in overtime. Tatum has 36 points, and the narrative is, did Jayson Tatum get carried by his teammates? Jaylen Brown hit a shot to send it to overtime. Absolutely. But to say that Jayson Tatum got carried when he put up 36 and 12 was a plus 20 on the floor and a minus 15 when he wasn't on the court, get the fuck out of here. Stephen A. Smith was like, I'm ashamed of their offense and stuff. Ashamed of our offense? We have the second best offensive rating in the playoffs, and we just put up 133.
It's just the turnovers. It's some of the small mistakes. Just the
bullshit.
Small mistakes. Not everything.
It just infuriates me. It's like, dude, it's like when they win, they're not winning the way they want them to win. If it's not a 20-point blowout, it's a letdown. They're talking about it. It's like we're losing. And Tatum getting all this slack. Kendrick Perkins being freaking culprit number one, talking about how Tatum needs to step up and he needs to lead his team. Two players, okay? I have it pulled up on my phone right here. I said I had to pull some stuff up. Two players since 1973, 1974 have led all players in a series in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. LeBron James in 2016 in the NBA Finals, and Jayson Tatum last round against the Cleveland Cavaliers. What do you mean he needs to do more for the Celtics? He did everything for them last series. Are you fucking kidding me? Get out of here. And then he dropped people like, when's Tatum going to show up? When is he going to have these big scoring performances? Motherfucker, he had 36 last night, and we still aren't happy about it. It might seem like I do. I don't care. Because as long as the Celtics win, if they win a championship, fuck them. I don't give it. The media can talk out their ass if they want. I don't care. The ring talks. That's what talks the most. But man, it is just, they can't win. They can't win. That's all I want to say. If you're a media member and you're watching this podcast, fuck you.
I'm on the podcast and I'm a media member.
So, Jerry, don't make me.
Hey, man.
But that's all I gotta say. All right, that's my closing venting. My 2 minutes of just venting really quick. I had to get out of my system.
Yeah, this is a safe space. You know what?
Damn right. This is my podcast. This is our podcast. I can say it the shit if I want to.
Exactly, man. You're at liberty to say whatever the hell you want, however the hell you want to say it. I don't really give a shit. Express yourself, man. I love that.
All right, I'm calm. All right. How about you? And you close that. What do you got to say?
I mean, I got two things. I got two things really.
All right.
Uh, Number one, being in Charlotte and seeing news about LaMelo Ball about to be sued for running over a kid's foot is terrible. I wish that he
Yeah.
didn't. There wasn't literally videographical evidence of him speeding out of parking lots and the parking deck after games. It doesn't help his case. I wish that brother nothing but Godspeed help, and I hope that it's nothing too crazy in terms of what he's about to have to give this family.
Yeah.
Secondly,
Yeah. Should have just signed the autograph.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm not even gonna go too much into it, man. Secondly, I'm still not. I understand we're in the thick of the playoffs, and we're having our moment to acknowledge the Final Four teams that are in the Boston, Indiana's, Minnesota, and the Dallas Mavericks. Right? Great, good, new era of basketball. Love it that we're in it. But just like I said last week or a couple episodes ago, whenever it was, the reigning MVP, defending NBA champs, were taken out.
Yes, they did. Yes, they were.
By one of the younger stars in the league, and we're definitely talking the hype out of Anthony Edwards. Love to see a new star get his due diligence and his shine. But when LeBron loses in the first round of the playoffs,
you don't hear the end of it.
No, they're still talking about the Lakers in segments today.
But they're not talking about Denver, and they're not talking about Jokic, nothing like that. Hey, man, we put out the video saying he needs to get the LeBron, the Steph Curry treatment. I feel like he's a very protected MVP winner. He's a very protected NBA superstar.
3-time MVP.
You're losing by 45. You're losing by 45 points in Game 6. 45 points. I didn't get to watch the game. It was one of those I looked back after, and I was just looked at the final score. 45 points, that is embarrassing. I'm sorry. And then for you to come out below a 15-point lead at halftime, I believe it was,
20.
And then lose that
20.
game. 20.
A 20-point.
No one's talking about
the biggest halftime deficit in NBA playoff history that somebody's came back from and won.
And also, I'm going to pull it up right now because I want to make sure I get it correct. Nikola Jokic has never beaten a 50-win team in the postseason in his career. The only Nikola Jokic series wins that he has by opponents, by their seeds, he beat 1 2 seed, 1 4 seed, 2 6 seeds, 3 7 seeds, and 2 8 seeds.
Yep.
So, only 2 seeds in the top 4. Only 2 teams that were top 4 seed. Everything else was 6 or below.
The 2 seed that you just mentioned was the Clippers. And they won 49 games, and they had a meltdown because people were hurt.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I saw that stat, and this isn't something that's being blown up. Nobody's talking about this on the national airwaves of media. No.
I've only seen this on Twitter. I haven't seen anyone talk about it on national TV. It's just from these NBA Central accounts or these whatever these basketball accounts are that aren't covered by ESPN, TNT, whatever. Listen, you play who's in front of you, right? I get that. That's here in this case, we talked about it last week. The Celtics this year, they've played some teams that had injuries and stuff. What are they going to do about it, right? It's just the fact that Jokic has never beaten a team that has over 50 wins. That's the difference. It's you play who's in front of you, but if you're not beating the teams that are in front of you that are actually good, that's just something. It's a very interesting stat. It's a very interesting stat. Very interesting.
That's a smudge on what he is or who he is. They can't beat good teams. Should be the stigma, because if this was LeBron, if this was MJ, if this was Kobe, oh no, they can't beat the teams that have won 50 or more games. That'd be such a huge blemish.
That'd be the headline all off season.
Yes,
all off season. Nikola Jokic. They're just going to be joking about, Jokic is with his horses right now. I bet he's having a good off season.
With all due respect to Nikola Jokic, fuck them horses. He got 2 games in a row and could not close the series out. And plus, another one. I have another parting shot for one Mike Malone, who said that their reporter asked a dumbass question.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
Don't roast my fellow companions for asking about the game when you guys had a mental fucking breakdown. I am
Mm-hmm.
done. Please take us home, Dante.
Hey, I'm with you. I thought that was embarrassing. That was a very bad look for Malone to be saying stuff like that. Listen, your team blew a lead. You blew a lead. Fucking take it. Fucking take it on the chest like a man. Just take it and then don't take it out on reporters, man. I don't know. That's ridiculous. But yeah, what we're going to be hearing this offseason now is, does Jokic need more help? Does Jokic need this or that? Get out
Have
of
fun.
here. Get
Have
that
fun.
shit out of here. But until we get into those topics, thank you guys so much for watching, listening to yet another episode of Sitting Courtside, number 38. If you are on YouTube, please make sure to like and subscribe. Put in the comments your thoughts, opinions, all that stuff from this episode. Check out our shorts content, gamified content here as well. If you're an audio only listener, we appreciate you for listening. Please make sure to like, follow, give us a 5-star review, whatever it is, whatever podcast room platform you're on right now. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok for more content. And until episode 39, peace out.